Welcome to Red Ice Creations Radio, internet talk radio recorded from the west coast of Sweden. My name is Henrik Palmgren. I am the editor and webmaster of redicecreations.com. And you can tune in to our show every Thursday and Sunday for our regular program. And we also have a subscriber section that you definitely don't want to miss out on if you want to have full access to our growing archive of radio shows. Today our guest on the program is Michael Sunanda, and we are going to spend some time talking about wild weather cycles, global warming, ecological crisis, Gaia Age, and much, much more. The topic of global warming definitely is a hot topic, as it were, and this is something we try to follow on our website and this radio show. It's important to hear many different perspectives in order to try to figure out what's really going on with our changing weather patterns and what some of the reasons for all of this might be. So among other things, this is what we will dive into today. And Michael Sunanda's website that you should check out is efn.org. Then it's / and squiggly mark ecozma, that's ecozma. Again, that's efn.org, then it's / and the squiggly mark, and then it's ecozma. And I'll also have this link up, of course, on our information page for this program, so you'll be able to get there easily from there. So let's bring on our guest and get this show on the road, as it were. Welcome to the program, Michael Sunanda. Thank you so much for coming on with us.
Oh, aloha. Glad to be here.
Nice to have you with us. You know, before we begin talking about your work and research and so forth, it might be a good idea to talk a little bit about you. I'm not that familiar with you. I know that you've been on Coast to Coast, and I think Feet to Fire also. I know that you're doing talks and you produce e-zines, among many other things. But beyond that, I don't know that much about you. So if you will, tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, and when you first began working with ecological and weather-related topics.
Thank you. Yeah. In the early 70s, I began doing a lot of meditation and yoga and study with Buckminster Fuller. And you might recall he's the geodesic dome genius.
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
Was one of the pioneers of ecology in the United States, or actually the world.
Mm.
But he was a technocrat, and he believed in technological solutions. And I was into learning more about how ecology works and what he calls world design science, revolution, and human trends and needs. So it was more of a way of studying than a solution. His geodesic domes are still being used around the world in many ways, but they're a technological solution. And, of course, most of the people in the world, in the Western world, they want a technological solution. And my solutions that I'm doing and learning are more ecological, organic growing, gardening, natural health, community cooperation, local projects, neighborhood power, food, not lawns, many different ways to become healthy and not become dependent on so many imported goods is what that's where a lot of the waste comes from that causes the greenhouse gases that heats up the atmosphere. As far as locally, I'm a permaculturist, and permaculture, I'd be curious if there's any of that in Sweden or Scandinavia. There's quite a bit of it in England and in Germany, Austria and Germany, and I'm not sure about France. They do have a lot of organic growing, organic gardening and growing and homesteads is permaculture. It's ancient. It's almost in every country in the world, but it's small, and like organic gardening or organic growing is growing fast in Europe and the United States, but you don't really know about it unless you do it.
Yeah, that's right.
It's a big thing. It started in Australia, and we'll get into that.
Yeah, definitely. You know, so you've been in this business, or as it were, for a long time. When did you first begin to? Because am I correct in saying that you're around, as it were, traveling around and doing talks and so forth? And if that is the case, when did that begin?
Well, I started started doing permaculture in the 1990s, and I started studying weather intensely then while I was doing that, and living on a organic farm in Hawaii. And I did that for a few years there, and then I moved back to Oregon in the northwestern United States. In the late 70s, we started doing a thing called Ecotopia, which was actually was based on a fictional book about the Northwest seceding from America and becoming totally ecological. But Ecotopia, for me, the first project was a gleaning project, and gleaning means that we go out to the farms and we harvest all the leftover food. Well, this is being done around the world in 100 countries, where people go out and glean what is left over from the farms. Or the farmers do it themselves. They take, one crop, and then they'll go do the second harvesting, and then they'll do the third harvesting if there's anything left. And of course, then we harvest mulch, and we manure the fields, and it's very organic, and most farmers now who use chemicals don't know about it. So it's a real, get your hands dirty. It's very organic and very healthy, and really fun to do. So I've been doing that occasionally since the 1970s, and I write a lot about these issues, and I teach here. We're organizing a permaculture gathering, which will be connecting hundreds of people who are doing permaculture, and the cities, connecting the cities with the farms. And it's very big, and we could talk for hours just about how permaculture works here.
Is it, you mentioned Ecotopia, is because I saw in one of your e-zines something referred to as Econesia. Is that the same thing but a different word, or?
Well, Econesia is more of a organic. It's a word for remembering, for forgetting or remembering the ecology cycles. Like there's all these cycles of ecology. We call them weather here, but I call them weather and fertility. Econesia means the awareness of nature and how the cycles work around you in your climate, and how they work with your body, and that's called acclimatizing. Whenever your body is responding to the weather around you, or even indoors, but you're kind of cut off from climate there, that's Econesia. And Econesia is remembering or forgetting the climate cycles and the natural life, microbes and soil fertility and all the effects of nature.
So let's dive into it and talk a little bit about these cycles. I know that one thing that we do want to get into here today, of course, is the wild weather cycles, and or I guess we could refer to it as Gaia cycles also. And I also know that you talk about something that you call Gaia rage. Tell us about that.
Well, Gaia rage is a word that just came up for the runaway greenhouse gases and the energetics. Energetics is the study of all the energy cycles in a given system. So the Gaia rage is just Gaia, being the goddess of the earth, Mother Earth, she's very hot and mad right now. And the rage means the heat, the fury, the storms, the floods, the earthquakes, volcanoes. Because Gaia isn't just the weather; it's also the soil, the fertility, the geology, and that. And rage, implies that she's mad and that she's rebalancing in a very, extreme ways: fires, floods, and superstorms, all these things, and the white folks are pretty much indoors most of the time, so unless you're a devoted gardener or you work outdoors, you don't really notice. Of course, then if you study the internet and know about the weather cycles, how bad they are in different places. If you listen to the news, we're getting reports from Florida. Half of Florida was having fires recently. And the southwest United States and southeast are tremendous fires and droughts right now. So the cycles are extreme, and that's what Gaia rage is, the extreme cycles, 100-year maximum, we call it in permaculture.
And I guess that you have been also, paying attention to the weather for a long time then. And what I want to ask you is, do you think that there is an increase like all the time now as the years go by, or is this something that picked up, about 10 years ago, or even we had some of the most severe hurricane seasons over in the States, of course. I think it was 2005 with Katrina, if I'm not mistaken, and so forth. But what's your take on that? Is it increasing?
Well, the weather is getting worse, and the main driver of that is the sun. And the sun is heating up, but it's more than just hot. There's all kinds of plasma. Plasma is a name for energy from the sun, and it's all of the energy. It's just invisible energy, the radiation, the magnetic fields, what we call the solar wind. It's all increasing now. It increases in cycles according to the sunspots.
Yeah.
And around 10 years ago, there was the maximum. It's 11 a year up and 11 year down. It's a 22-year cycle of the maximum and the minimum of the solar cycles. But the weirdness is that it was a maximum in 97 or 98, and we had tremendous heating and storms at that time. And it also energizes the inside of the Earth and all the other systems, volcanoes and everything. So we expected it to go down. Well, it didn't go down. It actually kept peaking. But it's been gyrating. In other words, it's been going up and down, 1 month up, a couple months down, a couple months up. So it's been going really crazy up and down and very high. So we didn't really have a solar minimum, and the NASA and those climate scientists, they keep saying, "Oh yes, we're in the solar minimum right now." Yeah. Well, that was last month. Now this month it's going crazy. Yeah. So it really is unpredictable and not going down like they said it was going to, and that's heating up everything because heat is accumulative. It isn't just whatever the temperature is today. It's accumulated. That's why the season cycles work, is that the heat, the water, the ground, the air absorbs the heat, and that's why the glaciers melt, because the heat is accumulative.
So, as you say, I definitely have been following this with the sun also as a big kind of, connector with all of this, talk of global warming that we have now, and this is of course beginning to get into the mainstream more and more by the day, it seems. And as you say, I think it was like an M-class flare have been popping up just here and there just in the past few weeks, and there's definitely activity on the sun, and if I'm not mistaken, I think it's going to peak again around 2011, 2012. Do you know anything about that?
Well, that's what they say, but I don't really believe this climate scientists anymore, because they have some big problems with their climate models, and also a lot of those policies are run by the military, even if they aren't. In other words, the scientists are not agreeing with each other, and a lot of them, they don't even agree with what is going on. And the sun, the information about the sun is controlled mostly by NASA and their satellites and telescopes and their news media. The NASA is a PR campaign for the space agency, which is controlled by the military satellites. So they're not really for the people; they're for the military. Yeah, that's right. This issue about science and the military and the control and their predictions, half their predictions are wrong, just not even debatable, completely wrong. So they're not really reliable anymore. And I'm not that were they ever reliable. It's the Bush people. They're struggling. They're arguing within themselves. Sure. They fire people. They censor their news information. It's not reliable. I do trust weather science or climate science, but only when I can get consistent, reliable information from them, from the reports. And most of that's coming through radical reports and, what we call the Al Gore Company. But Al is still a politician. I'm an ecologist. And so my solutions are very different than his. Yeah, but let's talk a little bit about Big Al.